Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 9 at Belmont Park on Saturday is the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. $500,000 is the purse. Nice prep for the Breeders' Cup Turf. Before we get to the analysis, remember that Belmont Clocker reports available throughout the entire Belmont Fall Championship meeting. Mike Welsh and his team of ace clockers will take you behind the scenes for the morning workouts and give you the skinny on European imports, first-time starters, how some of these horses are coming into these major Breeders' Cup prep races. Learn more, drf.com/clocker. Here's the field for the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. 5-2 on Sadler's Joy, who's slowly rounding his way back into form. We know he loves the distance. We know he loves Belmont. He's been running in very, very good form since he's come back. Arklow, rock solid as well. Been a little bit unlucky in some of his races. Same could probably be said for Channel Maker. Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. We're expecting a long shot to make the lead. The 4-cross border, one of 2 in here for trainer Michael Maker. Primo, the 3, is expected to sit second. I don't think that's where Chad wants him, though, Mike. I think Chad liked what he did in the Bowling Green when they took him back. I think they're going to rate him. I would expect the 7 Channel Maker to be forward.
Yeah, Channel Maker really should get forward in this race. We'll see what happens with Cross Border. He's a huge long shot in this race who really, it seems like, can't possibly win. Maybe he will make the pace, maybe he won't. Primo, I kind of agree with you. He wound up on the lead last time. They probably don't want him there, but he wasn't far away in the Bowling Green either. So I think it'll be forward, Dan, just probably not on the lead.
Let's take this field in post position order, beginning with the number 1 Zulu Alpha, just a likable 6-year-old. It seems like he shows up each and every time, and he put the boots to them last time out in the Kentucky Turf Cup at Kentucky Downs. Let's watch this race. He was on the outside throughout, ridden very confidently that day by Jose Ortiz, and he's drawing clear of Arklow. Wins the race impressively. That's 2 consecutive triple-digit buyers. He basically stays any distance, and I think he can work out any kind of a trip.
Yeah, that was a really impressive win last time. It's hard to judge what happens at Kentucky Downs, but he was certainly really impressive winning that day. I felt like his Bowling Green 2-back was a race that is better than it looks on paper. He just got into a lot of traffic in the stretch. I never thought he got a clear run. It certainly wasn't an ideal trip. He's the kind of horse who can get a really good trip in any race. He's a very handy horse. I guess the one sticking point for me with him is just that he's run once at Belmont Park in his life, and to me, since he's gotten on this really good run when they stretched him out last October, he just runs every time. The one Belmont race is really the only time he didn't show up, and I don't know if that means anything, but maybe he just doesn't really like the racing on the big course of Belmont.
We didn't mention Channel Cat when we talked about the Timeform US pace projector. Maybe Luis Saez will have similar ideas as to what he had in the Grade 2 Bowling Green 2 starts back recently. You know something? I'm going to go to the front. And he put him to sleep. Yeah. And he was game in the lane holding off Primo, who slipped through on the inside, and Arklow. Last time out in the Sword Dancer, another good effort for Channel Cat. He is rock solid for Todd Pletcher. 9-2 on the morning line seems fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll see if he can, bring his 2 Saratoga races down to Belmont, because if he can, he's a contender in this race. I know that he stole that Bowling Green a little bit where they let him have the lead, but he certainly took on a bunch of challenges in the stretch, and he fought them all off. He was dueling with Channel Maker through the stretch last time and managed to prevail for 3rd. This horse has run 2 really good races in a row. Primo
was one of the horses that challenged Channel Cat in the stretch of the Bowling Green. I thought he's had a great trip. Jose Ortiz had him in the pocket. Yeah. The rail opened up. He shot on through. He looked Channel Cat in the eye. He just couldn't get there. Last time out, as Mike mentioned, he was up on the pace in the Sword Dancer. I don't think that's what he wants to do. 3rd off the bench for Chad. I think Primo's going to run a lot better this time.
Yeah, he has to run better than he did last time. An effort more like the Bowling Green would certainly put him in the mix in this race. I didn't really see his excuse in the Bowling Green, but listen, he was off the layoff there. It was only his first start in this country. He could do better.
Michael Maker taking a shot with the 4-cross border. He's won his last 3 races. He's through his New York bred conditions. He's taking a big step up in class, a big step up in distance. Here's his most recent race, a 2X for New York breds at Saratoga. He's stalked, he pounces, he's on the lead, and he's on his way. These are nice, solid New York breds. They're far from the quality of Grade 1 type horses he's going to be facing on Saturday.
Yeah, he wins this race pretty easily. He's obviously in good form since Maker has taken over, but it just seems impossible for him to beat this field.
The number 5 is Arklow, and he's just run some big races this year without getting anything. And that's a shame because he's an extremely talented horse. Yeah. First he throws his jockey at Keeneland, fine. The Man of War, I thought he ran a great race that day. Last on the rail, in traffic on the far turn, alters course outside. He's flying late. and he gets necked by Channel Maker. Belmont Gold Cup, he just gets outstayed by a European going the 2 miles. Bowling Green again, kind of found some traffic that day, beaten 3/4 of a length. And then last time out, Zulu Alpha freaks at Kentucky Downs. One of these days, Mike, one of these days he's getting the brass ring. He's that good.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. Ever since they stretched him out last year, he's really found his best form. It's hard to believe when you start going through the races that he's running this year, save the race up to Layoff where he dumped his rider. After that, it's hard to look at his 4 races and think he hasn't won any of them. He's run well enough to win any one of those races, and he's a contender once again.
The 6 Sadler's Joy has been a good horse for a long time. He got a late start this year. They ran him in the Bowling Green. He ended up buried down inside into some traffic in the stretch. I thought it was a good comeback. It set him up for this race, the Sword Dancer. He had the misfortune to take on Annals of Time. Mike, take the folks through the stretch drive.
I mean, he runs one of his better races in this spot. It was interesting with Jose Lezcano taking over in this race that he actually had this horse a little more handily placed in this race. He wasn't last, as is his custom. He makes the run into the stretch. He is very game here down inside the 16th pole. Annals of Time ultimately gets the better of him. This was a really nice performance from a horse who was at the top of this division in 2017. He was at the top of this division in 2018. And it seems like he might be back at the top of the division now in 2019 after getting a little time off.
And you know something? I think you made a great point about his placement in the Sword Dancer. I was shocked in watching the replay again because I forgot that he was actually pretty close to that pace. You think of Sadler's Joy. You think he's going to be loping around 20 lengths behind and hoping for some pace and hoping for some luck. If he can now get into the race a little bit sooner, I think it bodes well for his chances down the road. As for Channel Maker, he's just another solid horse. Last time out in the Sword Dancer, on the lead, kind of battled it out with Ya Primo. Maybe had a little bit of the starch taken out of him. Won the duel, lost the war. We know on his best day he can win this kind of a race. 1.5 miles is what he wants.
Yeah, 1.5 miles, a good distance for him. He should be forward in this race. Maybe gets the best trip of anybody in here. It's 3 straight races for him where he's run fine. He's finished 4th in each of his last 3. But he's actually run his race all 3 times, dueling in the stretch in all 3 of those races and then coming up short. Then you go back to that Man of War back in May where his 2nd Grade 1 win, Dan, and that was a race. Remember, Arklow ran really well in there to be closing, but there was a wicked pace going on in there with that Rabbit European just running off on the field. This horse was close to it, and he still held on.
He won this race last year when they got very aggressive. He got a nice position. The inside was very good on that soft turf course, and he was able to ride it. Do you think they should send him? I really think they need to use this horse's speed because we did see that transformation when he stretched out to these distances last year and they allowed him to roll early.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I guess there's always a chance that that long shot cross borders on ascend in here.
That's it often.
But if that's the case, that's fine. But I wouldn't go into the races looking at it that way. I would just send this horse, try and make the front. If cross border wants it, you let him have it. But why let that horse dictate this race? This horse should be on the lead in here.
Agree 1,000%. Here's our picks for the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch. I respect Zulu Alpha's consistency. I know we can probably get a trip in mid-pack. He usually runs his race. Mike brought up a good point. The Belmont race in the Man of War was not a good performance, very unlike Zulu Alpha. That race, of course, was on the inner. This race is going to be on the Widener. Maybe he'll like the Widener better. 6-1 on the morning line seems fair. I want to use a lot of Sadler's Joy in here. I think Channel Cat will run well. Arklow will run well also. I went 1-6-2-5.
Yeah, I think this race really is going to come down to price at the end of the day. We'll see how they bet it. I stayed toward the outside. I put Arklow on top. I went 5-6-7, but it all comes down to price on which one you wind up betting. I think.
The Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. Just some hard-hitting older turf horses prepping for the Breeders' Cup turf, going one circuit around the Widener at Belmont. Race number 9 is an approximate post time of 4:50 Eastern. Best of luck.